Baseball games used to be a dime a dozen. There used to be a million different companies making all these different baseball, basketball, football, hockey games in general. You always had a great variety of sports games to choose from during the PS2, the Xbox, and the GameCube era. But as time has gone on, less and less companies are making sports games. And when it comes to sports games on the Nintendo Switch especially, there's not really much going on. Sure, you have the NBA 2K series, but other than that, there's really nothing going on in the world of sports besides RBI Baseball. RBI Baseball debuted on the Nintendo Switch with RBI Baseball 17, and it was an okay game. I thought there were some areas that could use some improvements, but for a first-year effort, I didn't think it was absolutely terrible. Last year, we got RBI Baseball 18, and I just felt like there wasn't enough of a jump in quality and issues that were fixed in RBI Baseball 18 versus RBI Baseball 17. Well, the new year is here, and RBI Baseball 19 is now available on the Nintendo Switch, the Xbox One, and the PS4, and I decided to take a look at it. So in this video, we're going to talk about RBI Baseball 19. We're going to see if the series has improved, to see if this is a game worth picking up. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about RBI Baseball 19.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So RBI Baseball 19 is a pseudo-simulation baseball game for your Nintendo Switch, your Xbox One, or your PS4. Now, if you're a PS4 owner, you also have the Show series, which is pretty much the premier baseball series when it comes to baseball games. But if you're an Xbox One owner or a Nintendo Switch owner, RBI Baseball 19 is the only officially licensed game that is in town. Now, one thing that I do like about RBI Baseball 19 is that they've added in a bunch of classic baseball players into the roster. So you have players like Jeff Bagwell, Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, players that I remember growing up watching playing baseball, and baseball players that I really enjoyed playing. There's a lot of older characters as well, which I thought was really cool. Players like Reggie Jackson, you know, a lot of classic baseball players. And I was pleased to see that there was like over 160 different old school characters that you could play as in this game. But one thing I did notice is some of the big heavy hitters aren't involved in this. Now, a player like Ken Griffey Jr., I guess I could sort of understand that because he had his own baseball game on the Super Nintendo. I'm sure that license isn't still active anymore because obviously Shaq has been in subsequent NBA games after the Shaq Fu incident, but it was weird to see players like Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire not involved in this as well. Yeah, they've been pretty much banned from baseball because of steroid allegations, but really, why would you not include these players? Like, these are some of the most iconic baseball players of all time. I do understand that this is an officially licensed MLB game, but it does seem kind of strange that a lot of these classic players that were so impactful in bringing the game of baseball into the limelight once again in the mid to late 90s aren't involved in this game. The main modes in RBI Baseball 19 are Exhibition, Home Run Derby, and Franchise Mode. Franchise Mode this time around is a bit more in-depth. You have a lot more control over what goes on your teams. Basically, you can do different things like trades, trade up to 3 players at once, and you can adjust it to be either a simulation type thing or you could just trade anyone you want. So if you want it to where it's more realistic, where other general managers will say, no, we're not going to do that trade, you can access that as well. When you're playing in the games for Franchise Mode as well, you can also quit in the middle of the game and it will save your progress. Strangely enough, that's not available in Exhibition Mode. It's only available in Franchise Mode. So if you're playing in Exhibition Mode on the go and you don't have a lot of time to finish the game, you won't be able to save your progress in that game, but if you're doing it in Franchise Mode, you can. I don't know, it just seems like a weird oversight to me because I feel like it should be available in both modes. And then there is Home Run Derby Mode, which is a contest-like mode where you're basically trying to hit as many home runs as possible. What I liked about Home Run Derby Mode is that not only can you use the current roster of people, but you can use those classic characters as well that are available in the game. So that was pretty cool too, you know, being able to play a home run derby with Reggie Jackson on a modern field was pretty neat, and I thought it was a nice little addition. There's not really many bells and whistles that go into Home Run Derby Mode. Basically, you just swing the bat, you try to get your timing right, and then you can hit subsequent home runs. One thing that's been improved in RBI Baseball 19 over its predecessors has to be the overall character models used in this game. I think they look a lot better and a lot more lifelike than in previous versions of the game. You'll notice things like different hairstyles, different beards, and different faces for all of the different characters, except for the classic characters. Some of them are like their likeness, some of them are not really. Playing as Jeff Bagwell, it didn't look like him. He didn't have Jeff Bagwell's swing. I don't know who this man was while I was playing Home Run Derby Mode, but it definitely wasn't Jeff Bagwell in terms terms of appearance or batting stance. It was more just Jeff Bagwell in terms of statistics. But for the most part, all of the modern characters look pretty much like their likenesses, and I thought that was a nice thing. Unfortunately though, once you start hitting the field, all of the problems that I've had in previous versions of this game start to pop up, and some of them are even glorified more so in this version of the game than in previous versions of the game. First, let's talk pitching. Pitching in this game is just so basic, and it's like they still don't seem to understand that people probably want a bit more in terms of pitching. When you throw a pitch, you basically throw a pitch, and after you throw the pitch, you can sort of adjust if it goes left or right. You can't control what sort of pitch you're throwing from the pitcher's mound. So if you want to throw a curveball or a sinker, if the pitcher you're using is a knuckleball pitcher, you can't do anything about that. You're basically just throwing a standard pitch, and you're just moving the control stick around to try to make it, juke left or right. I thought it's really strange in a game that's obviously based somewhat on simulation that you have so little control over the pitches that you have in this game. And honestly, batting wasn't much better. It doesn't feel very in-depth at all. Basically, you can bunt the ball by hitting one button, or you could swing your bat by hitting another button. You can also use the analog stick to make the ball sort of do a pop fly or a ground ball, but really, I didn't notice much impact when it came to batting in this game. And honestly, the fielding isn't really that much better either. Basically, when the ball hits the air or hits the ground, you can control a player, you can switch between different players to get to the ball, and then of course you can use the 4 face buttons to throw it to a different base. So for instance, one button will throw it to first base, one second, one third, and one home. It seems to work okay, but sometimes I've noticed that the player animations for fielding just seem a bit wonky. There's been times where there's been like a pop fly and he caught it, and I'm like, that animation makes absolutely no sense. How would he catch the ball in that sort of animation? It just feels a bit stiff. One thing that seems really off in the game as well seems to be the strike zone in the game. There was an instance where there were 3 pitches thrown and all 3 were called strikes, and I was like, those didn't look like strikes to me whatsoever. They were nowhere near the plate, so I don't understand how these were strikes. Let me look at the instant replay feature to maybe see if there was an instance where the ball crossed over it and I just wasn't paying attention. But once again, there is no instant replay feature in this game. I don't understand how this is the 3rd year of RBI Baseball where there is no instant replay feature. So if you hit a home run, you do something nice, you get a good play while fielding the ball, you can never watch it back again. It's so weird and so basic that this instant replay feature is not featured in RBI Baseball 19. Every baseball game that I can remember playing since the Sega Genesis era has had instant replay features, yet RBI Baseball 19, a modern baseball game, still does not have instant replay. And really, that sort of starts the downfall of RBI Baseball 19 for me. It's just, they've improved upon things. I feel like the fielding is better. I do think the character models are a lot better than last year's version. So they've obviously put a little bit of time and effort into that. But there's still just no presentation in this game that really makes it feel like an MLB experience. There's still no instant replay. There's still no announcers or anything in the game. All you get is a PA announcer who sometimes says things, but most of the time he's pretty quiet. The crowds are very stagnant. They do look a little bit better, but they're still very stagnant. There's lots of weird graphical hiccups. Sometimes when you hit the ball, like there'll be a little motion where it just sort of chops up and it's like the frame rate gets choppy and it's like, why did this just happen? And it's very random when it happens. I didn't notice anything that was necessarily triggering this. It was just sometimes when you hit the ball, there's like some frames of animation missing and it just gets very choppy. Sometimes when you swing a bat and you strike out, there'll be a weird extra animation added to the character's swinging motion. And it's just like, how did you not notice this? There's so many little problems with RBI Baseball 19 that just keep it from being a really good game. I was able to look past some of these problems with RBI Baseball 17 because it was the first time it was available on the Nintendo Switch. RBI Baseball 18, I felt like, okay, now we need to start taking things seriously, and they really didn't. RBI Baseball 19 starts to make some improvements in the graphics and in the fielding, but the lack of presentation in the game just really holds it back for me. I want to be able to choose my own pitches and control my own pitches. I want to have a little more player control when I'm playing the game of baseball. And it's a shame because this is the only realistic style baseball game that's available on the Nintendo Switch or the Xbox One. Like I said at the start, if you're a PS4 owner, you have MLB The Show, which is the premier baseball series. So you have something to go back to, but if you're a Nintendo Switch owner or an Xbox One owner, this is the only baseball game in town. And maybe I'm being a bit too hard on the game because the game is a $30 game versus MLB The Show, which is a $60 game. But honestly, I just feel like they need to do more improvements in it. It's pretty simple on how to make this game better. Make the pitching more in depth, make the batting a little bit better, add a little more pizzazz, add a little bit more flair and presentation, and honestly, you would have a solid baseball game. If you're a diehard baseball fan and you only own an Xbox One or a Nintendo Switch, I guess maybe the game is worth checking checking out, maybe wait for the game to go on sale. But honestly, if you're just a casual baseball player, it's probably not worth checking out at the full $30. I'm hopeful that one day maybe RBI Baseball will become a better baseball game, but as it stands now, it's just very mediocre, and it really has some problems that I feel like need to be addressed, and unfortunately, it just looks like they're not going to address these problems anytime soon. So those are my thoughts on RBI Baseball 19. Definitely a bit of a disappointment for me. I was hoping that they would improve things, and while they did improve things, like making the fielding a bit better, making the character models looking a bit better, and adding in a bunch of classic baseball players, the on-field gameplay just isn't good enough for me in my opinion, and the lack of presentation just really holds this game back. But let me know in the comments section down below if you plan on checking out RBI Baseball 19, and as always, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, check out other videos on the channel, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.